guess I can say what I want because the media's gone. My name is Matt Tedrow. I'm an administrator for a website called the New Texas Radical. Where's Terry? Oh, hi. Okay. I was excited when Rick Perry commuted Kenneth Foster's sentence last year because it was unprecedented. That never happened before. And I'm hopeful that the same will happen for Jeff Wood this summer. However, simply because there are important similarities, their cases are very similar, there's no guarantees. We all realize that, and that's why we're here today. What Jeff is up against, what his supporters and his family and his friends are up against, and by that I mean the capital punishment system, the state of Texas, the courts, the governor, even the media to some extent. These institutions do not play fair. They're not just, they're not always honest. They're not moral institutions. We have to correct that. They behave irrationally. They're concerned more with whether papers are filed on time, with whether certain procedures were followed, with whether defendants jump through the right hoops at just the right times. We live in Texas, the only state in the country which has a law in its books, Section 7.02 of the Texas Penal Code, also known as the law of parties, which allows for a defendant to be executed even though that person was factually innocent of murder. Jeff Wood did not kill, did not intend to kill, did not know that a murder was going to take place. He is sentenced to die for a crime that another person committed. So what I'm saying is this. We don't want Kenneth Foster's victory last summer to be a fluke, but it's obvious that it is not a fluke that people such as Kenneth and Jeff Wood wind up on death row in the first place. You know, there aren't billionaires on death row. People who can afford a good lawyer don't get the death penalty. The Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, put the point nicely in 2001 when she said the following, and I'm quoting, "People who are well represented at trial do not get the death penalty, ... I have yet to see a death case among the dozens coming to the Supreme Court on eve of execution stay applications in which the defendant was well represented at trial," and that's certainly what happened with Jeff Wood's case. I'm preaching to the choir with some of this. I hope so, at least, because if I was in Dallas saying this, I might get beat up by now. And sometimes the choir is the only group that matters, because you can either preach to the choir or preach to no one. If you've worked in the Texas anti-death penalty movement at all, you know this better than anyone. It's not easy for us to do this stuff. As members of the choir, there's a lot we need to do, above and beyond contacting Rick Perry's office and demanding, not asking, but demanding, that Jeff Wood be saved. Because even if he's saved, there's still the law of parties. That doesn't change. How long until the next law of parties case rolls around? Are we going to be here next year doing exactly the same thing? There will still be race-based and class-based disparities in the death penalty. The victims will always be disproportionately poor and people of color. The U.S. will still be alone and isolated among advanced industrial countries if Jeff Wood is executed, or saved, in executing people, and will continue to draw criticism internationally. It was only a few weeks ago that United Nations human rights expert Philip Alston called on the United States to ensure that the death penalty is applied fairly and justly in states where it is practiced. In his remarks, he singled out two states as especially problematic: Alabama, and you can all guess what the second state was. On August 5th, 3 days from now, Texas is set to execute Jose Medellin, a Mexican national who did not receive consular assistance. In 2004, the World Court, the International Criminal Court, ordered that Medellin receive consular review. Rick Perry's office issued a statement, part of which read, "The World Court has no standing in Texas, and Texas is not bound by a ruling or edict from a foreign court. It is easy to get caught up in discussions of international law and justice and treaties." No standing in Texas? The World Court is the highest tribunal on the planet, folks. Last time I checked, we lived on the planet. Was Medellin guilty? Yes, he was guilty. Of course he was guilty. We have to admit that death row inmates do in fact murder people every day. We can also stress that the death penalty system carries consequences for the culture and society, not just the inmates. In Medellin's case, Amnesty International pointed out that his execution would raise serious questions about U.S. commitment to the Vienna Convention and might even compromise the rights of U.S. citizens traveling abroad. That's a serious drawback to lawlessness. Careful if you go to Mexico, on that note. Death row inmates have family members too, who are destroyed when their loved ones are executed. Many of Jeff's family members are here today, and they've attested to that. What about family members' rights? What did they ever do? Where we have contact with the media, we need to try steering the debate along these lines, and I'm talking to the choir here. Where the mainstream media shuts us out, we need to use our own form, such as Human is helping us with today. We need to expand this. Finally, we especially need to deal with the fact that Texans support the death penalty. Let me rephrase that. Texans love the death penalty. They would execute shoplifters and abortionists and Democrats and all sorts of people if they could. I don't know how many times I've heard a truck driver yell, "Kill them all," at me while holding a protest sign under an overpass. There's only so many times you can say Metallica sucks before that joke gets old. I was also in a half price. This is another side of the coin. I was in a half price once in Corpus Christi, and a man who had actually been in prison for killing someone came up to me and tried to convince me that the death penalty is something we need. His reasoning was that it's the best we can do. Well, it's not the best we can do. We can do much better than that. This last barrier, this change we need to make in the way people think about the death penalty, about social justice, is the hardest to overcome, but it's the most important. There must be a sea change in the way people in this state think about the death penalty. We need to keep writing and passing out pamphlets and talking to people, especially students, I think. I'm speaking as a teacher, so I'm biased. This work can't occur in isolation. It will have to feed into other efforts by other groups to radically alter the way Texans, and everyone else for that matter, think about what a good society might look like. I hope we are all swept up in such a transformation. Thanks for listening. Help save Jeff Wood, not just for his sake, but for all of ours. Thank you.
Right.